Hello and thanks for stopping by to hear my theory on why it seems to take so long for the universe to bring us what we most want for ourselves. A client recently asked why finding love was taking so long. It took me a moment to know how to answer her, and this is what I came up with. If you envision the thread of your life being made into an enormous web, blanket, or rug, you can envision the complexity of each individual thread that crosses over or under the others as the final product is created. So many things must happen just for the first line of creation to be made. If you want a particular pattern, you must further complicate the pattern, thus making things take even longer. For example, I spent a lot of years looking for a happy, healthy relationship. I tried many different configurations with many different individuals, but nothing worked right for me. I finally stopped looking and focused on clearly defining what I did and did not want in a relationship. I set boundaries and made decisions about what my full steam ahead and no-go situations were. In other words, I spent time on me and my expectations and boundaries rather than focusing on what I wanted someone else to be. Fast forward 5 years, yes, 5 long and sometimes lonely years. I believed in someone I probably shouldn't have, but because I did, I pulled up roots and moved myself and my dogs to Atlanta from North Carolina. I left behind the safety of living with my best friend and being less than an hour from my mother to go to a new city, exponentially larger than any I'd ever lived in before, where I knew only a few people and had no support system. I had already had to move from the first place I was staying to another place when I came home from work one day and found this stranger moving into the basement where I was staying. I'd known someone was coming, but had no idea who this person was. I only knew his first name, and it stuck because how many people do you know who are named Indiana who used to be a professional ballet dancer? What I didn't realize until that very moment was that this man and I shared a mutual friend. A friend who a year earlier had reached out to ask me to please give him a review of a short film he'd been in while he lived in Texas. I'd watched and loved the short film. So much so, that I'd wanted to punch the lead actor in the face when it was over because of what happened on the screen. Now, here I was, standing in front of the lead actor from that film. I looked at him and said the first thing that came to mind, "I've seen you act." I pointed at him, smiled, and because I'm socially awkward, I walked away, leaving this man staring after me, wondering what the hell I'd meant by that. Think, now, of how many strings had to be pulled for this meeting to happen the way it did. Not only the strings in my life, but the strings in his. There was no reason why a man from El Paso, Texas, almost the entire country between us, should have come into my life like that. I was born and raised in the East. The farthest west I've ever lived was when I went to college just north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The farthest east he never lived before coming to Atlanta was Las Vegas, Nevada. And yet, there he was, standing in the room beside the one I was staying in. Newly arrived from a 2-day drive from El Paso. All the strings that were set in motion by so many experiences in both our lives had aligned to create a beautiful web that brought us together, with similar goals, at the same time. And here we are, 4.5 years later, still together and still working toward mutual goals. This is why it takes so long for love to come together, why it takes so long to create the perfect situation for your goals to be realized. How many synchronicities had to come together for this to happen? I think once you consider this complexity of our situation, and your own, you'll understand why so many counselors of all types will caution you to patience. Know that I'm speaking as a recovering control freak when I say, let go and let the universe work at its own pace. When you try to rush things, you get lessons, not results.